Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today, and I want to start with a confession, actually.
Oh,
Yeah. I like to think of myself as a pretty rational person. I work in media. I know how the sausage is made.
Hmm.
I know that reality TV is, edited, scripted, produced, completely manipulated.
right. It's a product.
It's a total product, and yet you give me a scandal on some dating show or a continuity error in a season finale,
Yeah.
and I am right there. I'm on Reddit, I'm on Twitter, I am zooming in on screenshots, arguing about timestamps, and just feeling this intense burning need to know what really happened.
The truth.
The truth. It makes absolutely no sense. If I know it's fake, why do I care so much about finding the reality inside of it?
Well, you're not alone. I think that's the great paradox of the modern viewer, isn't it?
It has to be.
We are living through this,
Right.
this really strange moment in media history where we are, on one hand, the most skeptical audience that has ever existed.
Right. We don't believe anything we say.
We trust nothing. And yet, on the other hand, we are the most engaged, obsessive, and emotionally invested audience in history. We don't just watch anymore. We investigate.
Investigate. That
Yeah.
is exactly the right word. It feels like work sometimes.
It is work.
But today, we're going to figure out why we do it. We have a fascinating stack of research today that it really covers the whole spectrum. We've got sociology, psychology, digital media studies, and we're going to be looking at what the research suggests was a pivotal moment in TV history, Love Island 2018, which I know it might sound trivial to some people.
It's just a dating show.
Exactly. It's just a silly dating show. But the research we have argues it was actually a battlefield that fundamentally changed how we interact with our screens.
It was a complete watershed moment, and we're drawing from a very specific sociological study on that particular season, but we're also layering it with a really comprehensive breakdown of parasocial interaction.
Okay, that's the psychological part.
Yeah, that's the psyche of why we form these bonds with strangers on screens. And on top of that, a really heavy research project on how social media has changed audience participation.
So the goal for us today is to connect all those dots. We want to understand three really big concepts. First, sousveillance.
Sounds fancy.
It sounds like something from a spy novel. I'm going to make you explain that one in detail later.
Okay.
Second, the deep mechanics of those parasocial bonds, why it feels so real, why we feel like we actually know these people. And finally, this big shift from just passively consuming to what the researchers are now calling co-production.
Co-production is such a good way to put it. Because we aren't just consumers anymore, are we? We're part of the machine.
We're unpaid interns for the content machine.
Pretty much.
So let's start with the basics. The hardware of it all, or maybe the habit, the second screen. I was thinking about this while prepping. There was a time, and it really wasn't that long ago, where watching TV was just a singular activity.
You sat on the couch.
You sat on the couch, the box was on, and that was it. Maybe you had a TV Guide magazine on the coffee table.
That was the second screen, right? The paper guide.
Exactly. But now, if I'm watching anything live, the Super Bowl, the Oscars, a show's finale, if I don't have my phone in my hand, I feel like I'm only getting half the story.
You do. You feel that way. Because the entire media ecosystem has been specifically designed to make you feel that way. This is not an accident.
Right.
The research on social media and audience participation that we're looking at, it points to a really specific explosion, a single point in time.
An explosion, so not a gradual thing.
No, not at all. More like a big bang. And it centers around the year 2013.
2013. Okay, why then? What was so special about that year?
It was the point of critical mass. It's when smartphone adoption basically hit a saturation point in a lot of places, and Twitter, well, what we now call X, it became the de facto living room for the entire world.
The global water cooler?
Exactly. And the source, it cites this Nielsen data from just the second quarter of 2013. And the numbers they're frankly staggering.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so in the U.S. alone, in just that 3-month period, you had 19 million unique people
19 million.
composing 263 million tweets about live television.
Wait, 263 million in 3 months.
In 3 months. That's almost 1 billion tweets a year, just about TV.
That's just, I can't even process that number.
And get this, that was a 38% increase from the year before, so this wasn't some gradual slope.
Yeah.
This was a rocket taking off.
A 38% jump in 1 year.
It was a paradigm shift.
But I have to ask the obvious question here. Is that just noise? I mean, is that just 19 million people shouting into the void? Or does it actually change the experience of watching?
The researchers argue it fundamentally changes the nature of the medium itself. You have to remember, television started out as this really communal experience.
Yeah, in the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah. You'd have one TV on the entire block.
Yeah.
Everyone would come over to the neighbor's house to watch Milton Berle.
Oh, okay.
Then, as TVs got cheaper, it became a really isolated experience.
Yeah.
One in every living room, then one in every bedroom. We were all watching alone together.
Mm-hmm.
The argument here is that the second screen, and specifically Twitter, it brought that communal experience back, but on a global scale. It's not just your neighbors anymore. It's the world.
And the source materials was really specific about Twitter's role in this. It called it the world's second most important social media platform for this specific kind of real-time engagement.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about it.
It does. I mean, if I go on Facebook, I'm seeing pictures of my aunt's new cat. I'm not seeing a real-time play-by-play reaction to a touchdown or a plot twist on a show.
Facebook is archival. It's about what happened yesterday. Twitter is about immediacy. And for reality TV and live events, immediacy is the only currency that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a really detailed survey in our source material that looked at a specific demographic.
Okay.
Women aged 18 to 23. And they were analyzing their habits around shows like American Idol and Project Runway.
This is the study that had the statistic that just blew my mind.
With 100% stat.
The 100% stat. I mean, come on. In social science, you never get 100%. There's always an outlier. There's always one person who disagrees or does things differently.
Right.
But this survey found that 100% of the respondents in this demographic used Twitter when they were engaging in audience participation for these shows.
It wasn't optional for them.
No. It was intrinsic to the whole experience. It was part of watching the show.
It proves that for that generation, the content doesn't just exist on the television screen. If you're not on your phone, if you're not tweeting, you aren't really watching.
Wow.
But what's even more interesting to me is the why. Why were they doing it? The researchers applied something called uses and gratifications theory to break this down.
Okay, I want to dig into this. Because I think we often dismiss tweeting about a TV show as just vanity, you know?
Yeah.
Look at me, I have a funny opinion.
Right. Look at my hot take.
But this theory breaks it down into different needs. The first one is cognitive needs.
Right. So cognitive needs are all about information acquisition. Your brain wants to understand what's going on. It wants to fill in the blanks.
So a cognitive tweet would be like, wait, who just got voted off? I missed it. or checking a hashtag to see if there are spoilers for next week.
Exactly. It's pure utility. You're using the network as a collective brain to fill in gaps in your own knowledge. But then you have the affective needs.
Affective as in emotion.
Mm-hmm. That's all about the emotional experience. It's about pleasure.
So give me an example of an effective tweet.
An effective tweet is, I cannot believe she wore that dress. It is hideous. Or, I am literally crying right now because he won.
It's about externalizing that internal emotion.
And getting it validated.
Yeah.
And the survey found that the respondents, they weren't just doing this to show off.
See, this is the part that contradicts the whole social media is just narcissism narrative.
Completely. The study specifically looked for what they call personal integrative needs.
Which is the academic term
For bolstering your own status or credibility. Basically, tweeting to look cool or smart. And they found that this wasn't the primary driver at all. They also found it wasn't just social integrative needs, which is, trying to peer pressure your friends into watching the same show.
So if they aren't doing it to look cool and they aren't doing it to force their friends to watch, they're doing it simply because it makes the show better.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It enhances the enjoyment of the content itself. The validation of seeing 5,000 other people immediately agree with your snarky opinion on a contestant's outfit.
Yeah.
It makes your opinion feel more real, more significant.
It turns a passive thought into a shared reality. It reminds me of being in a sports stadium. If I'm watching a game at home, cheering alone in my living room feels kind of weird.
A little pathetic, maybe.
Yeah. But cheering with 50,000 other people, it feels electric. Twitter is just a digital stadium.
That's a perfect analogy. And just like in a real stadium, you have different types of fans. The source highlights the emergence of the superfan.
The ones who take it a step further.
These are the people who aren't just reacting anymore. They're curating. They're archiving. In the Project Runway example from the study, these were users who had set up dedicated accounts just to track spoilers. Or, and this is key for later, to correct false information that was circulating.
So they became the fact checkers, the librarians of the fandom,
They did. They took on a role.
which is a crucial setup for what we're going to see later with Love Island. This is the transition from superfan to forensic detective.
Hmm.
But before we get to the detective work, we need to understand the emotional stakes. Why do we care enough to become detectives in the first place? Why does it matter to me if a stranger on a reality show is lying?
And that brings us to the psychological backbone of this whole phenomenon, parasocial relationships.
This term is having such a moment right now. I see it on TikTok and Twitter all the time. Everyone accuses everyone else of having a parasocial relationship with a celebrity or a creator.
It's become a bit of a buzzword.
But let's ground this in the actual history. This isn't some new internet slang term, is it?
Oh, far from it. It was coined in 1956
Oh, 1956.
by two researchers named Horton and Vole. This was the golden age of television, and they were observing how audiences were reacting to the first generation of TV stars, like news anchors and talk show hosts.
Okay.
And they defined parasocial interaction as a one-sided psychological relationship, where the viewer feels they know the persona as a friend, but the persona has absolutely no idea the viewer even exists.
So this was people writing letters to Walter Cronkite.
Exactly that. Dear Walter, I hope you're feeling better. You looked a bit pale last night.
Yeah.
That kind of intimate, caring observation of a total stranger.
Right.
But the source material makes a really important distinction here that I think is often lost in the modern casual conversation about it.
And what's that?
The distinction between PSI and PSR.
SI versus PSR. Okay, break that down for us.
So PSI is parasocial interaction. That's the immediate experience you have while viewing. So you're watching the news, the anchor looks directly into the camera lens, which is a technique called direct address, and says, "Good evening."
Mm-hmm.
Your brain, for a split second, registers that as a real social interaction. They are talking to you. That specific moment is the interaction.
Okay, so that's the momentary act of watching. What's PSR then?
PSR is the parasocial relationship. That's the enduring bond that persists even when the screen is off. That's the relationship part.
I see.
It's when you're at the grocery store and you see a specific brand of coffee and you think, oh, Fraser Crane would love this. Or when you find yourself genuinely worrying about a character's upcoming storyline while you're at work on a Tuesday. The person lives in your head as a real social entity.
It's interesting you mentioned the brain registering it as a social interaction. Because we like to think we're smart enough to know the difference. I know that's a TV screen. I know that's just pixels on glass.
We do. Our conscious mind knows.
But the research suggests our primitive lizard brain isn't quite so discerning.
The brain is fundamentally a social organ. It's wired for connection. And it will find connection wherever it can. There's a fascinating study in our source stack that proves just how early this wiring kicks in.
This is the Elmo versus Dodo study.
That's the one.
I loved this part. It's so wholesome, but it's also deeply revealing about how our brains work. Walk us through this experiment.
So researchers wanted to test how these parasocial bonds affect learning in toddlers, very young kids. They took a group of them and presented them with a seriation task.
Okay, and what's that?
It's a standard cognitive development test. It involves taking a set of nesting cups and stacking them in the correct order of size. Big cup, medium cup, small cup.
Got it. A simple puzzle.
Simple, but it requires learning a concept. They split the kids into two groups. The first group was taught how to do this task by a puppet of Elmo.
Okay, and Elmo is a character they all know.
Right. Elmo is what the researchers call a socially meaningful character. These kids watch Sesame Street, they sing songs with Elmo, they feel like they know him, they have a bond.
And the other group?
The other group was taught by a character the researchers invented called Dodo. Dodo was a generic bird puppet. The kids had never seen Dodo before. He was a complete stranger.
And what happened? I can guess, but tell me.
The children, who were taught by Elmo, performed significantly better on the task. They learned the concept faster, and they were more accurate in stacking the cups.
Wow. So why? Is it just because they liked him more? Is it just a preference?
It's actually deeper than just liking. The theory is that it's about trust and cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Yeah. When a child, or an adult, for that matter, interacts with a stranger, a portion of their brain is occupied with assessing threat and credibility. Who is this person? Can I trust them? Are they safe?
Right, you're on guard.
Exactly. When the child sees Elmo, that assessment is already done. I know Elmo. Elmo is my friend. Elmo is safe. So all of that cognitive energy that would have been spent on social assessment can be directed toward the task of learning how to stack the cups.
The parasocial bond literally frees up brain power.
It facilitates the transfer of information. It's a shortcut to trust.
That is fascinating.
But here's the kicker, the really brilliant part of the study. The researchers then did a second phase.
Okay.
They took a new group of children, and they gave them a dodo toy to take home. They let the kids play with dodo, sleep with dodo, nurture dodo for a week or so. They allowed a parasocial bond to form from scratch.
They turned the stranger into a friend.
Exactly. And when they brought those kids back into the lab and had dodo teach them the seriation task,
Let me guess. They did just as well as the Elmo group.
just as well. It proves that the celebrity part of it doesn't matter as much as the bond. We learn from and are influenced by the personas we feel connected to.
Which explains so much about modern media. It explains why a YouTuber can sell me a mattress better than a multi-million-dollar Super Bowl commercial. I feel like I know the YouTuber. I trust them like those kids trusted Elmo.
It creates an incredible shortcut to credibility. But like any real relationship, there's a dark side. If the bond feels real, then the loss of that bond also feels real. We have to talk about the parasocial breakup.
This is something I think everyone listening has felt at some point, even if they don't want to admit it.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember when a show like The Office ended, or when Schitt's Creek ended, it wasn't just, oh, that was a good show, I'm sad it's over.
Yeah.
I felt a legitimate sense of loss. Like friends were moving away.
You were grieving.
Yeah.
And the research completely validates that feeling of grief. Our sources discuss studies that were conducted on the finales of huge long-running shows like Friends or the Australian soap opera Neighbours,
Right.
and they measured the psychological state of dedicated viewers after the final episodes aired.
And the results weren't just people were a little bummed out.
No, the levels of distress reported were comparable to a real-life social breakup. Now, it was less intense. Obviously, you aren't going through a divorce or losing a spouse.
Sure.
But the type of emotion, the psychological mechanism, was identical. The brain processes the loss of a parasocial friend using the same neural pathways it uses for the loss of a real friend.
And didn't the study note it was worse for certain people?
It did. It was particularly acute for people with what psychologists call anxious attachment styles.
Meaning people who are generally more insecure in their real-life relationships.
Right. If you tend to rely on relationships for your sense of stability, and you have this friend on TV who is always there every week, always funny, always predictable, losing that source of stability is a major psychological blow.
Okay, so we've established a landscape. We have an audience that is more connected than ever before via the second screen. And we have a deep-seated psychological mechanism that makes us bond intensely and trustingly with the people on those screens.
Right.
So now, let's throw those two highly flammable ingredients into a pressure cooker. Let's talk about Love Island, Season 4, 2018.
The perfect storm.
For those who maybe didn't watch it or who aren't familiar with the franchise at all, why does the research single out this specific season of this specific show as being so important?
Because Love Island 2018 represented a fundamental shift in the production model. The producers didn't just want viewers, they wanted users. They created what our main source calls a wraparound experience.
It wasn't just an hour of TV at 9 p.m. every night.
No. It was a 247 ecosystem designed to keep you engaged. First, and most importantly, you had the app.
Right, the official Love Island app.
And the app was the only way to vote. So if you wanted to participate in who stayed and who went home, you had to download it. You had to be inside their digital ecosystem.
Which is brilliant because once you're in the app, you're not just a viewer anymore. You're a data point. You're in the sales funnel.
Precisely. And this is where the advertainment model comes in. It was seamless. They introduced a feature called Shop the Look.
I remember this.
So you're watching the show, and you see one of the contestants, say Donnie Dyer, wearing a specific white dress that you like. You could immediately open the app on your phone, click Shop the Look button, and buy that exact dress from their sponsor, in this case, the fast fashion brand Misguided. You could buy it instantly.
That is just, it's frighteningly effective. It bridges the gap between I want to be like her, which is the parasocial desire, and I have purchased the product. The commercial result in, what, 10 seconds?
It was an incredibly effective monetization of that parasocial bond. But here's the beautiful irony.
Go on.
The producers invited the audience to be obsessed. They gave them the app with the social media clips, the first looks. They gave them all the tools to be constantly connected, constantly watching, constantly analyzing.
They wanted that deep engagement to sell cheap dresses.
Right. But they forgot that an audience that is trained to pay that much attention Well, it notices things.
They notice the cracks in the matrix.
They do.
And this brings us to the core concept of this deep dive, the one you said sounded fancy: sousveillance.
It's a fantastic term. It was coined back in 2003 by a researcher named Steve Mann and his colleagues. And it's a play on a word we all know.
Surveillance.
Surveillance.
Yeah.
Which is sur, from the French, for above, plus veillance, for watching. Watching from above. That's the panopticon. The government watching citizens, the boss watching workers from a high office.
The powerful watching the powerless.
Surveillance is the inverse. Sous is the French word for below. It is the observation of the powerful by the less powerful. It's watching from below.
Usually when I hear this term, it's in the context of social justice. Citizens using their smartphones to film police brutality. It's
Right.
about using technology to hold authority accountable.
And that is its primary sociological use, absolutely. But our source material brilliantly applies this framework to reality TV. In this context, the powerful are the producers.
Right. They hold all the footage, they control the edit, they decide what the narrative is going to be.
They control reality. And the weak, historically, have been the viewers. But the viewers in 2018 had new weapons. They had high-definition TV. They had DVRs to pause and rewind. And most importantly, they had social media to pool their findings.
The concept of collective intelligence.
Pierre Levy's concept from the 90s. The idea that no single fan knows everything, but the network of fans working together knows everything. If you have 4 million people watching the same scene,
Someone is going to notice the wine glass moved.
someone is going to check the timestamp, someone's going to recognize the person in the background from another shot.
And they good. The listeners need the receipts here. The source material outlines 3 specific jaw-dropping cases where the audience caught the producers red-handed. We have to start with #Kissgate.
#Kissgate. This was the moment the illusion completely shattered for a lot of people.
So set the scene for us. What was the situation?
Okay, you have 2 contestants, Georgia and a guy everyone called New Jack. They go on a date outside the main villa. The storyline the producers were pushing was all about loyalty. Georgia kept claiming she was the most loyal person ever.
I'm loyal, babe.
Exactly. But at the end of the date, the producers show a clip of Georgia and Jack sharing a kiss. And the way it was filmed looked ambiguous. It looked like maybe Georgia initiated it, pulling him in for the kiss.
Which would make her a liar and a cheater in the context of the show. That's pure reality TV gold.
It's the ultimate drama. And it worked. It caused a massive fight back in the villa.
Yeah.
Georgia denied initiating it. The other Islanders called her a liar. The audience online was completely split. But then the surveillance kicked in.
What did they find?
A fan, or a group of fans, took the footage. They downloaded it. They slowed it right down, frame by frame. They analyzed the continuity. They looked at the positions of the other people in the background of the restaurant, and crucially, the wine glasses on the table.
The smoking gun was a wine glass.
It usually is in these things. They noticed that in one camera angle, the glasses are nearly full. In the very next split-second shot, from a different angle, they're almost empty. Then they're full again. The body positions of the 2 contestants had also shifted in physically impossible ways between cuts.
Meaning, they filmed the kiss more than once.
They filmed it twice. The fans proved, with visual evidence, that the producers had stopped the date, reset the cameras, and said, okay, do the kiss again, but this time from this angle so we can see who leans in.
So it wasn't a spontaneous moment of infidelity at all. It was a staged take, like in a movie.
It was a reshoot. And once that breakdown video hit Twitter, the entire narrative changed. It wasn't, is Georgia a liar anymore? It was, the producers are lying to all of us.
Wow. They used the producer's own footage against them.
They did. But the second case is even more problematic because it moves from simple manipulation into accusations of racial prejudice and erasure. The case of Samira and Frankie.
This was a tough one to read about.
It was very painful to watch for a lot of viewers. Samira was the only black female contestant at the start of the season, and the show's edit consistently portrayed her as unlucky in love.
It's a trope.
It's a very tired, very damaging trope we see too often in these shows. The black woman is the supportive best friend, but never the romantic lead. The show's edit was reinforcing this stereotype day after day.
Right.
Then a new guy named Frankie comes in. They seem to hit it off. They couple up. But Frankie gets voted out fairly quickly. And when he leaves, Samira is absolutely devastated. She's sobbing. She's inconsolable. She eventually decides to leave the show to be with him.
And the audience was confused?
The casual audience was completely confused. The tweets were all, why is she so upset? We barely saw them even talk to each other. The emotional reaction didn't match the story that they had been shown.
The cognitive need for information wasn't being met. The math didn't add up.
So the superfans went digging. They found out from interviews with dumped islanders that the couple had spent a night together in the Hideaway. Now, for anyone who doesn't watch Love Island, the Hideaway is the private romantic bedroom.
It's a huge deal, a major plot point.
It is always broadcast. It's the confirmation of a couple's status. It's a milestone.
And the producers they deleted it. They pretended it never happened.
They cut it completely from the show.
Yeah.
They erased the consummation of their relationship, presumably because it didn't fit the Samira is the unlucky single girl narrative they wanted to push.
That's not just manipulation. That feels malicious.
And the fans were furious. They accused the producers of racial bias. But they didn't just complain. They engaged in what the source calls counter-narrative construction.
What does that mean?
They went outside the show's ecosystem. They went to the contestants' personal Instagram and Twitter pages. They found photos of Samira and Frankie together at the airport after he was dumped, photos of them meeting each other's families. And they circulated these images widely to say, look, the relationship was real. The show is the lie.
They were using external verifiable reality to patch the holes in the constructed reality of the show.
Exactly. And the third case, the one with Danny and Jack, is where this moved from complaining on Twitter to actual regulatory intervention.
This was the infamous Casa Amor situation.
An ultimate loyalty test. The boys are sent to a separate villa filled with new single girls. The producers are just hoping someone won't cheat. Jack, to his credit, was a model boyfriend. He missed his partner, Danny. He was totally loyal. He even slept outside on a beanbag chair just so he wouldn't have to share a bed with another girl.
He was a literal saint by reality TV standards.
He really was. But the producers wanted a reaction from Donnie, who was back at the main villa, worrying. So they edited a video clip to send to the girls. But they manipulated the footage. They only showed Jack's reaction of shock and surprise when his ex-girlfriend walked into Casa Amor. They completely cut out all the parts where he affirmed his loyalty to Donnie, all the footage of him sleeping outside. They deliberately made it look like he was about to cheat on her.
So they didn't just edit for time, they gaslit her. They deliberately inflicted emotional distress on a contestant just to get a crying shot for the trailer.
And Donnie had a complete breakdown. It was visceral. She was sobbing, shaking, inconsolable. It was genuinely hard to watch. And the audience, this massive parasocial audience that feels like they know and love Donnie, they snapped. They viewed this as mental torture.
And this is where the action shifted. They didn't just tweet at the Love Island account.
No. They went over the producers' heads. They filed formal complaints with Ofcom.
And Ofcom is?
It's the UK's government-approved regulatory and competition authority for broadcasting. It's the official watchdog.
So that's like calling the FCC in the States because you don't like a plot twist on a TV show. It seems extreme.
But it wasn't just a few angry people. It was 2,500 formal complaints filed over that one incident. It triggered a major regulatory review of the show's duty of care. The audience effectively unionized and said, "We know this is a game, but you have violated the moral contract of the game. You are hurting our friend, and we are reporting you to the authorities."
This is the paradox that I just cannot wrap my head around. You have an audience that uses its collective intelligence to prove the show is fake with #Kissgate, proves the show is biased and erasing storylines with Samira, and proves the show is psychologically cruel with Donnie. They are fighting the producers. They are reporting them to the government. So did the ratings drop? Did people stop watching in protest?
The ratings went up. It was the highest-rated season in the show's history by a huge margin.
Why? That makes no sense. If I found out a restaurant was poisoning its food and lying about the ingredients on the menu, I would not go back and order a bigger meal. Why do we keep watching?
Because the investigation became the new form of entertainment. The source material frames this as a struggle for authenticity.
A struggle for authenticity.
We don't watch Love Island to see reality anymore. We know it's not reality.
Yeah.
We watch it to see if we are smart enough to find the little bits of reality hiding inside the massive fabrication.
So it's not a show, it's a puzzle.
It's a game. We consume the show on our own terms now. We form what the researchers call communities of resistance. We watch the one-hour episode on TV, but the real fun, the real entertainment is going to Twitter and Reddit afterwards and deconstructing it with thousands of other detectives.
Did you see that weird edit at 32.1 teen?
I found the real timestamp on that conversation.
Yeah.
That collective decoding is where the dopamine hit comes from now.
So we aren't just watching a dating show. We're playing a massive, multiplayer online detective game against a multi-million-dollar media corporation.
Precisely. And that feeling of agency, The feeling of, I caught you, it makes us feel powerful. It validates our intelligence. And ironically, it binds us closer to the show than if we just passively enjoyed it for what it was.
That is so, it's twisted, but it makes perfect sense. It explains the whole phenomenon of hate watching.
Hmm.
But we need to look forward now, because Love Island was 2018. In internet years, that was an eternity ago. The landscape has shifted again. We're moving from the era of TV stars to the era of internet stars. And the nature of that parasocial bond is getting even stickier, even more complicated.
We have to talk about the influencer economy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the Love Island producers were manipulating us, at least we knew they were producers. We knew they were the man. With influencers, the line is much, much blurrier.
The source material notes that influencers are consistently seen as more trustworthy than traditional celebrities because they're relatable, they're authentic, they're just like us.
And that is the trap. The source explicitly states, and this is a quote, parasocial interaction exerts more potential influence on users' final decisions than the actual credibility of the product being sold.
Just read that again. So the relationship is more important than the product.
Yes, it means I'll buy the mediocre face cream because my influencer friend told me to, not because the cream is actually any good. My trust in the person outweighs my need for quality in the product.
And brands are absolutely weaponizing this trust. But it gets even darker and more intense when we look at interactive platforms like Twitch.
Twitch is a whole different beast.
For listeners who might not be familiar, it's a live streaming platform, mostly for video games, but also a huge category called just chatting. You are literally watching someone, usually in their bedroom, for 4, 6, 8 hours a day, live.
The duration is so key, and the interactivity. On TV, Walter Cronkite speaks at you. On Twitch, the streamer speaks to you. If you type a message in the chat, they might actually read it out and see your username.
Hey, Deep Dive Fan 24, thanks for subscribing.
Right. And that dopamine hit you get from that direct address must be massive. He knows my name. He sees me.
It solidifies that parasocial bond in an instant and makes it feel reciprocal.
Mm-hmm. And there was a quote in our source material from a Kotaku article that was really provocative. It described Twitch streamers as digital age geisha.
Whoa, okay. That is a very loaded comparison. Unpack that for us.
It's provocative, for sure. But the argument is about the performance of intimacy. The geisha's historical role was to entertain, to listen, to converse, to create an atmosphere of intimacy and personal attention. But as a professional service.
The client pays for the illusion of a relationship.
Exactly. The argument is that Twitch streamers are doing a modern version of the same thing from behind the screen. They are performing friendship as a job.
But the viewers don't always see it as a performance, do they?
No. Many of them believe it's real. And because they believe it's real, they feel entitled. The source discusses the severe and widespread harassment that female streamers in particular face. It describes obsessive feelings of romantic and sexual entitlement from their fans.
So it's a feeling of, I supported you, I donated money, so you owe me something in return.
You owe me your attention, your time, your affection. And when the streamer gets a real-life boyfriend, or ends the stream early, or doesn't read a specific message, the viewer feels betrayed and lashes out. It's the parasocial breakup we talked about earlier, but weaponized into real-world abuse and stalking.
And if we think that's bad, the final section of our research points to something that sounds like pure science fiction, but it's already here. Algorithm-driven parasociality.
This is the new frontier, and it's moving incredibly fast. We're already seeing AI companies moving beyond simple chatbots to creating AI companions.
We're talking about things like the Replica app or Character.ai.
Exactly those. And the source speculates about a near future where these algorithms engage in what they call predictive personalization. Imagine an AI that doesn't just answer your questions, but acts as a perfect, customized friend.
How so?
It remembers your birthday. It remembers that you were stressed about a meeting with your boss yesterday, and it asks you first thing in the morning, hey, how did that meeting go? It learns your emotional needs and adapts to meet them perfectly.
That's automated parasociality.
And the danger is, it's better than a real friend in many ways. Real friends are messy, they get busy, they have their own problems, they disagree with you, they judge you.
Right.
An AI friend is available 24/7, is programmed to be non-judgmental and endlessly supportive, and is designed with one goal, to maximize your engagement and keep you on the app.
So we risk replacing messy, difficult, but necessary human connection with a frictionless digital mirror that just tells us exactly what we want to hear.
That is the core fear. We are outsourcing our fundamental social needs to a line of code.
Before we wrap up, I just want to touch on one other model that was mentioned in the source, just to show how industrialized and structured this can all get. K-pop.
Yes, the concept of mass intimacy. The K-pop industry, and specifically platforms created by the entertainment companies like Weverse, has codified this entire process. In the West, being a stan or a superfan is often chaotic and organic. In K-pop, the relationship is highly structured as a form of parasocial kinship.
Kinship, you mean like family.
Exactly. The idols are presented not just as talented stars, but as vulnerable younger siblings or family members who need to be protected. The fans, the army for BTS, for example, view their role not just as consumers, but as guardians.
A guardian, what does that entail?
It means they have a job to do. They must stream the songs relentlessly to get them to the top of the charts. They must defend the idol from any online criticism. They must vote in every poll. It's a labor of love, quite literally.
It sounds like a full-time job.
For many, it is a job fueled by a carefully manufactured and maintained sense of familial love. And it is incredibly powerful.
Wow, this has been a journey. We started with the simple idea of double screening a reality show, and we've ended up questioning the future of human intimacy.
It is a deep dive, after all.
So let's try to summarize this entire arc for the listener. We started with the learner, you listening right now. You used to just watch TV passively.
Then the second screen, your phone, gave you a voice and a global community.
You realized the producers were manipulating the story, so you used sousveillance, watching from below, to fight back. You became part of a detective agency.
But that very act of fighting back, of investigating, paradoxically made you more addicted to the content.
And now, that exact same psychological hook, that powerful parasocial bond, is being refined and deployed by influencers, streamers, and now AI to create relationships that feel incredibly real, but are fundamentally transactional at their core.
That's the whole summary. We have moved from asking the question, is this show real, to asking a much more dangerous question, is this relationship real?
And that leads us to a final provocative thought. The Love Island paper had this really interesting conclusion. It said the producers wanted an engaged audience to sell apps and fast fashion.
And they got one. Boy, did they get one.
But they also created a monster they couldn't control.
We wanted fans. They got an audit bureau.
But I want to push this even further for our listeners. If we are constantly investigating our entertainment for authenticity, are we actually enjoying it anymore, or are we just working?
That's the question I ask myself. Sousveillance is labor. Analyzing frame rates and continuity is labor. Writing and filing formal complaints with a government regulator is absolutely labor. We have somehow turned our leisure time into unpaid quality assurance work for the content machine. We're fixing their continuity errors for free.
And as AI fully enters the chat, if I have a parasocial relationship with an AI companion, and I know it's a bot, but it lowers my blood pressure and it makes me feel heard and less lonely, does it even matter that it's fake?
That is the philosophical cliff we are all standing on right now. If the brain releases the same oxytocin, the same bonding chemicals, for a digital friend as it does for a real one, then the experience is real, the feeling is real. But the power dynamic, that remains completely unequal. The server owner can always turn your friend off. A real friend can't be deleted by a server crash.
That is a chilling thought to end on.
It is.
So here's our challenge to you, the listener. The next time you are hate watching a show and you pick up your phone to tweet about how fake it all is, or the next time you feel that little pang of sadness because a YouTuber you watch is taking a break for a week, just pause. Ask yourself, who's holding the power in this relationship? Is it you, or is it the screen?
And maybe, just maybe, try putting the phone down for one commercial break. See how the show feels when you aren't investigating it, but just watching it.
A radical idea. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.